Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? It's time for some more Seahawks talk. And in this video, we're going to be revisiting some things that happened over the last week or so. Obviously, the things we're going to be talking about in this video do not really affect the Seahawks' future. They don't have any relevance on where we're headed. So we're just basically revisiting the past and understanding that what's done is done. We can't really change anything. We're just talking about it for the sake of talking about it. But I still want to give my thoughts on something that we learned this morning. Because a lot of Seahawks fans are sounding off about this. A lot of Seahawks fans are expressing their displeasure with the way things went. And I want to talk about it a little bit here to make sure we're keeping the right perspective with this team and their priorities. So, in the last 9 hours or so, we've learned something very interesting about the way the most recent week of decisions from the NFL went. Because, to go back in time a little bit, we know that the NFL said that they were going to force teams to forfeit if they had a COVID outbreak this year. There would be no postponements, no cancellations. Well, there would be cancellations, but they would result in a forfeit. There would not be a cancellation with no result, no contest. There would be no moving of games. And then 3 games got rescheduled in the last week. Cleveland had an outbreak, Washington had an outbreak, and LA had an outbreak. And all 3 of those teams, under the NFL's rules have laid out before the season, would have been forced to forfeit their games or play the games with half a roster. And the NFL moved those games, so a lot of Seahawks fans were upset at the NFL. Now, don't get it twisted here. I think we as Seahawks fans have every right to be furious at the NFL for the joke officiating last night. I'm still not happy about that. I know some people were telling me to get over it, but that was not just 1 or 2 really bad calls. That was a game full of consistent garbage. And I'm not going to stop talking about it. I know some people want me to. I don't care. If you don't like it, deal with it. I usually don't get this way about stuff like this. I'll talk about a ref for maybe 15 to 30 seconds occasionally. I'll talk about a call. But that game was a load of crap. And I'm going to talk about it whenever I get the opportunity to. Sorry. However, you guys know that I actually defended the NFL for their decision to move the game. Because I didn't think it was fair for the Rams to have to cancel a game. To forfeit a game because of something that was outside their control when they're playing for so much. They're trying to win this division. So I was like, okay, I think the NFL's right to want to reschedule this game. Well, come this morning, we find out it wasn't even necessarily the NFL that wanted it. So according to this tweet from Tony Grossi and many other sources, J.C. Treader of the NFLPA said the NFL wanted the 3 games canceled with the outbreaking teams forfeiting, and it was the NFL Players Associations that pushed for rescheduling because they wanted those players to get paid. Because if the games got canceled, the players would not get their game checks for that week because there was no game. So the NFL can't get revenue off of it, so the players don't get paid. So that changes things a lot. And one sentiment that I've seen from a lot of Seahawks fans is now, oh, we got to be mad at the NFLPA because if they didn't interfere, if they didn't step in, those games would have been canceled, the Rams would have forfeited, we would have gotten the win, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm seeing a lot of Seahawks fans saying that, and I want to talk about that angle for a second here. Now, before I say anything else, the NFLPA is a joke. They are the worst players association in sports that I know of. How do we not have fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL? How? Baseball players get that. Basketball players get that, pretty much. Unless they, pull out a gun in the locker room, they're going to get their contracts. They're going to get their money. NFL's more violent than those sports. How did that happen? I don't get it. The NFLPA is weak. They're spineless. They roll over every time. The wins they get are obligatory and obvious. However, I want to talk about them pushing for this game to be rescheduled. And I want to go a level deeper than just saying that I don't think it's fair for the Rams to have to forfeit a game just because of something that was outside their control. And I also want to go a layer deeper than just saying it ended up working out okay. The Rams got some players back, but they were still missing a lot of pieces. The Seahawks only lost, to my knowledge, one player in that game that they would have had on Sunday, Brian Monet, who was possibly injured anyway. I want to go a level deeper than that, because I've already said those things. I think the NFL and the NFLPA are both, they both made reasonable decisions, and it worked out okay. But beyond just that, what if the Rams had to forfeit that game last night? What if they had to forfeit the win to us? Well, we'd have better playoff odds. They'd be like, what, 6%, 7%, I think? Less than 10. Yeah, that beats 0.1, but it's still really, really low. Still barely worth talking about. Still almost certainly not going to happen. Still needs way too much stuff to happen in order to make it a reality. So, okay, getting a free win from a forfeit last night would have been valuable, but not that valuable. You know what is valuable right now? Information. Information's valuable. Think about what we learned because we got to watch this team play a game last night, okay? Think about what we got to learn last night. Jordan Brooks, great game. I thought he played great. One of the best games I've ever seen Jordan Brooks play. Great experience for him against a good offense. Now, I don't know if it's a great experience for him to be trying to cover Cooper Kupp 20 yards down the field, which did happen at least once, but he gained some good experience in that game. It was good for us to see that. It was good for this organization to see that from him. If the Rams had to forfeit that game last night, we don't get to see that. But seeing that makes us, as fans and as an organization, think, wow, this guy, he might have a little bit of a higher ceiling than we thought. Okay. That is valuable. What about Sidney Jones? Great game for him too. Or good game at least. Maybe I shouldn't go crazy with it, but good game. I like what I saw. He continues to develop, continues to put good film on tape, or good tape on film, or however. We're seeing positive development from some of these guys. I mean, the defense as a whole played really well last night. And we would not have gotten to see the defense play really well last night if there wasn't a game. Even a guy like Carlos Dunlap. Look, Dunlap has been on a milk carton most of this year. I don't know if he's going to be back next year, but the reality is he still gets paid from this organization whether or not he's here. We save like, what, $900,000 if he gets cut? So if we can look at Carlos Dunlap this offseason and go, you know what, he's worth $900,000. Let's keep him around and see if he can give us $900,000 worth of decent play. That's probably better than cutting him and just getting nothing when you're still going to be paying him almost all of his salary. So seeing him ball out last night, that is valuable. Maybe it's not super valuable, but I take something away from that. Darrell Taylor had a decent game. Not big splash plays, but I thought he played pretty good. Seeing that is valuable. These are the things you lose if the game is forfeited. And given the fact that this team overall is not very good, given the fact that this team clearly needs big changes, given the fact that things are not going well right now, that we need to make some serious altercations, or fuck it, whatever, to this team in order to compete at the highest level. Clearly, we need to switch some stuff up here. I think that information might be worth more than boosting our playoff odds to 5, 6, 7%. That, to me, needs to be the focus right now. Not just scoring in a free win. The free win helps a little bit, but the information we're gaining from watching this team play, that's meaningful, probably more so than just getting a free win. And look, Darrell Taylor, Jordan Brooks, those guys are definitely going to be here next year regardless. You could argue that, hey, we didn't learn anything that interesting. Like whatever. We're going to see those guys next year. We're going to see how they develop. It doesn't matter that much. Carlos Dunlap, he's a veteran, and I don't think he'll... And maybe you don't think he's going to be here next year regardless, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Maybe you weren't that taken by some of this stuff. But what about a guy like Jake Curhan? Was it just me, or was he legitimately good last night? Going against a good defensive line. Donald, Miller, Floyd. Good pass rushers. Guys who know how to beat offensive tackles. Was it just me, or did he play okay? Going into that Rams game, I was thinking, this Jay Curhan guy looks like he belongs in the NFL. But coming out of that game, I'm thinking, ooh, did we strike gold? I can't wait to see him the next few games. We don't get that if there isn't a game last night. If Jay Curhan is a starting caliber NFL player and can be our starting right tackle next year, that's really valuable. That saves us a lot of stress this offseason. That saves us a lot of stuff. So that's the good stuff from that game, because there was actually a decent amount of good stuff you can take away from that game. We got pretty good play overall from the defensive line. I think the whole defense, outside of maybe Alton Robinson, and that was really just one play, held up solidly. But not just the good stuff. What about some of the bad stuff too? Because bottom line, this team played well enough to win a game yesterday. They played well enough on defense. They played well enough on the offensive line. They played well enough, in my opinion, at the skill positions on offense, running back, tight end, receiver. Not that it was all amazing, but I think it was good enough to win a game. And they didn't win that game because of two things: the officials and Russell Wilson. Those are the reasons why they didn't win that game. And I saw it last night in the stream. There were quite a few people in there who had been pro-Wilson, who had been defending Wilson, who had been big Wilson fans and saying, we need to keep him, we need to build around him. A lot of guys in there last night saying, you know what, I can't do it anymore, I can't defend him, I can't advocate for him anymore, I can't stick with him anymore. I gotta say, I don't know about this guy anymore, because what they saw last night from him was so pathetic. That's valuable too, because if that's the case, wouldn't you rather learn that now than learn that next year when it might be too late? Now that's not fun. If you're a Russell Wilson fan, and I have been a Russell Wilson fan, I've been a big Russell Wilson fan at points in my life, and last night was a breaking point for you where you realized, wait a minute, I don't know about this guy anymore. Or maybe it was a breaking point for you where you went, no, I do know about this guy. This guy sucks. I want him out of here. I don't like him anymore. If you're somebody who was like that last night, if last night was an epiphany moment for you, isn't that epiphany valuable even though it's not fun? Aren't you grateful you got to have it now instead of next year? Because next year you're going to be married to him for the season probably, and it'll be hard to move on from him. Aren't you glad you were at least able to figure that out now? Aren't you glad that the organization was able to look at Wilson throw a winnable game last night and have the opportunity to look at that when they're deciding whether or not they want to keep him this offseason? Because even if it's coming to the conclusion that you don't want, at least it's more information. We got some information last night. The information was that this team played well enough to win, and Wilson was probably our worst player out there. Maybe Damian Lewis was worse, I don't know. But Russell Wilson was on the short list for worst players on the Seahawks last night. And given the fact that he's our highest paid player, given the fact that he's supposed to be the guy who carries us in moments like this, that's really not okay. So if this was an epiphany moment for you as a fan, to say, you know what, this Russell Wilson guy, I don't think he has it anymore. I want to move from him. I want to move on from him. That game was a breaking point for me. That game was part of a tapestry this season and last season where I'm just not seeing what I need to see from this guy to believe he can still be a top quarterback. If you're somebody who feels that way, then isn't it good that you got to learn it now and not learn it halfway through the season next year? So, yeah, getting a free win would have been valuable. But I think getting to play that game last night was more valuable than that free win. So don't be mad at the NFLPA for pushing the rescheduling. I think it was the right decision, and I don't have a problem with it. My only beef is with the NFL for that garbage officiating last night. I'm not mad at them for moving the game. I'm not mad at them for rescheduling it. I'm not mad at it for them breaking their rules. I want to see what this team has. And last night, they showed me a lot of positive things that I can hang my hat on. And I think that some of the bad stuff we saw could have been educational. So, those are my thoughts. I'm out of here. Peace out, Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. I understand the frustration, but I think we are better off for having seen that game last night.